So as an entrepreneur, you have had more than a decade of focused experience in catalyzing impact investing in South Asia. You have worked in 16 countries with clients ranging from leading MNCs and SMEs to startups and nonprofit entities. You're also the founder and CEO of ALSiSAR Impact, which is South Asia's first impact investing and social enterprise-focused transaction advisory firm. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me in this discussion today.
It's a pleasure, Anusha.
So our discussion today will focus specifically on the role of advisory bodies in the impact investing ecosystem. And one such advisory body is, of course, ALSiSAR Impact, that has worked with 600 plus enterprises across 18 countries to mobilize $350 billion in and across different sectors. So while there seems to be a good ecosystem of impact investors and social enterprises, even in fact incubators, there seems to be a void of the facilitators or catalysts or advisory bodies in this ecosystem. So what is the role that these advisory bodies play in the impact investing ecosystem, and how important is this role to keep the ecosystem going?
Yeah, thanks a lot for, first of all, giving me the opportunity to kind of speak here. It's a great topic, and I'm so thrilled that having a person like you, primarily youngsters coming in, kind of sensitizing with this sector. So if you see at a broad level, close to, I will say, $5 to $6 billion have come into India in impact investing. We have mobilized close to $1 billion in this space, directly and indirectly as well, in more than a decade of our work. However, when we look at a overall enterprise level, if you talk about the advisory entities, the reason they are not able to come into this sector is multifold. One is not everybody is passionate about working in this sector because the return on investment is not immediate. It takes time, huge amount of time it takes. So let's say I'm a lawyer. If I work with a corporate, I get the immediate gratitude in a way that I get my fees and I could be paid in a well, I will say, well hourly rate kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. The same thing I can talk about as a finance advisor, like a chartered accountant, a company secretaries and others. Everybody could be paid if I'm a corporate. But the same thing if I'm talking about a social enterprise, they do not have enough money to pay. So when I'm talking about a scenario where the professionals are lesser and the demand is more, obviously they will go to a place where they can be getting more money. And this is not the place where you get money immediately. It takes time. It takes lots of effort. It takes empathy as well. And when I'm talking about this whole thing, it is something which makes this ecosystem vulnerable with respect to quality professional services. You don't get it. And the end result is that at the initial stage, you will always get some kind of a sloppy professionals, either because you can't pay good. So that means many of them will not be of the similar quality as you can have some rock star professional. At the same time, if you have some professionals, they would be in much lesser in number, high in demand, but lesser in number. Mm-hmm. So today, when we started in 2008, it was a very stark, I will say, scenario where we were just one of the first to start with in whole of South Asia. But today, when I look back, there are more people who are kind of looking into this sector and kind of shaping into it. And they are more empathetic. They would like to work in rural areas. They would like to go into hinterlands. They want to get into some kind of other initiatives as well, and supporting it. So things are changing, but still it is not changing fast enough. So we need to find more professionals to come into it. At the same time, there have been some different models to support, like some people were wanting to get into grants, some people were getting into some kind of a quasi support. But for professionals, there is no grant. There's no other soft support. So the only way is internal accruals or your passion. Mm-hmm. So people like us, we are passionate, we are continuing in this sector. One of the very few who survived as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very few professionals actually survived pure play into this sector. Like even some of the entities which kind of started after we started, mm-hmm. they either have folded or they have metamorphosized into something else. They are not providing professional services now. They are transformed to something else, or they are providing mainstream work and other aspects. Mm-hmm. But as I see, as an overall global phenomena, this thing has become one of the fastest growing sector as well. And huge amount of millennials are wanting to get into it. And the reason is because people want profit with purpose, as you rightly said, and that is something which is very great confluence of people to shape it in future. I'm hopeful, and that's one of the reason I have started this entity, not to kind of make money, but also to catalyze this whole social entrepreneurship movement in South Asia. I'm happy that huge amount of work has already done. And as we move forward, things should be better. I will not say worse, it will be better, because now it is the mainstream business subject. Climate change is mainstream, we talk about. Renewable energy is mainstream. Waste management is mainstream. All these are like the most important core things we have. That's the way I'll put this across. Yeah.
So another important thing that ALSiSAR Impact has been doing is playing the role of an ecosystem enabler. So that is by engaging with investors as well as social enterprises. So what really is the purpose of working with both ends of impact?
Yeah, so many times what happens, we would like to take one side, and that's how we kind of are defined as a professional.
Yeah.
And that kind of blur the image, like especially in social sector. I will take an example. We work in Kashmir in a big way. And Kashmir is a conflict zone, so called. We all kind of talk about it. And you will hardly hear a startup getting funded. So recently we catalyzed one startup for funding, and we are also into like advising 2 more entities who will get funding. Now here, if I'm only working with entrepreneurs and I do not have access to the investors, I won't be able to mobilize money. At the same time, I will also not be able to manage regulators, because not just India, but even Nepal, Bangladesh, and Myanmar, and others are hugely regulated market.
Yes.
And many times it's not about the money, but it is about the way the regulatory management is done, fails the transaction. So we need to have people to manage that as well. At the same time, you should also kind of appreciate that we need to speak similar languages. So let's say an entrepreneur is there in Ladakh who has not seen scale. They are staying in a very exotic place, nice place, beautiful place. But if I go to an investor and I say, hey, look, I would like to take money, and investors say, why on earth I will go there? Because there's no growth, there's no market, and I'm not going to invest in that. So you need to sensitize the entrepreneur that they look, you need to be investment ready. That's one side. The other side, you have to tell the investor, hey, look, if you are impact funds and if you are trying to put money in lots of other so-called riskier investment like business plans, why don't you put it in frontier market or put it to some kind of a ecosystem, which is slightly riskier. If you are not doing it, then that means we are talking about a very myopic approach of a city phenomena, Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, or Hyderabad kind of thing. You need to go and step into the other side. And to do that, it's a very time-consuming process as well. Yes. So similarly, as we are talking, we are now working in Nagaland, we are working in Uttarakhand, we are working in Sikkim, we are also working in Nepal and Bhutan as well. And all of the geographies are kind of exotic geographies, if we put it like this. But if you ask how much entrepreneurship-related movements are there, they will say Bangalore is good, Bombay is good, or Delhi is good. Nobody want to talk about that kind of ecosystem there. So we need to change the narrative, and that's where the ecosystem is very important. You need to build the ecosystem by putting the right kind of a narrative for the entrepreneur. At the same time, the same narrative, which is also understandable by the investor, and they believe that investing there is good. There's a good ROI, or maybe like moderate ROI, if I put it like this, but there is a very amazingly high SOROI, social return on investment. So it kind of bridges the ROI gap that we may be talking.
Long-term systemic change that requires a deep understanding of the logistics of impact, when and how to move financial human capital, even in fact in the intellectual resources that are required to accomplish the goal. So that not only does require a clear and concise strategy, but also a well-constructed plan that will help implement that strategy. So what are really the steps that advisory bodies take in terms of strategy formulation, specifically to propel philanthropic efforts of such clients?
So a pretty brilliant question, if I say. So if you see, the strategy is mix of multiple aspects. So first is like, what is my objective of investment, if I put it like this? So we are advising, let's say, a fund, which is a foundation, which is wanting to give a grant, let's say. Fund want to invest and they want to get some return. The return may be muted slightly, but they still need a return. A foundation at the other side doesn't need any return. They would like to give grants, but they want to see the projects to flourish. the objectives. Then the third is like some of the times you have some kind of a calculatical bodies like the quasi government and others. They would like to see that this money which they are giving should be able to enable the whole sector to grow as well, not just individual entities, but the sector also to grow to the next level.
Yeah.
Now, in the first case, when I'm looking that investment need to come, so if I'm advising them, we need to understand that whether the investments are safer, whether the integrity of the entrepreneur is high, and also whether that area of work which they are doing is also providing some kind of a more systematic, long-lasting impact in terms of the social ecosystem as well coming in. And all these things are kind of at a common intersection. Like it's not like one is the exclusive and the other one is exclusive, not like that. It's a combination of different factors. And also we need to be clear is like some of these business models that we are seeing today in social sector, they took years and years to shape up. Like microfinance was a philanthropic sector initially, and now it is a amazingly good for-profit sector as well. Lots of investors have put money and they've made money out of it as well. But when they started, it was not the intent. They got most of them got philanthropic money, and now today we are talking about a very good upside in terms of investment money as well. So it's a kind of an intersection, and that's why the social sector is a pretty unique sector as well. You can't compare with mainstream in that similar way.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So coming to a more geographic perspective. So South Asia is actually home to more than 1.9 billion people, and it has experienced a significant amount of economic growth over the last decade. However uneven it might have been. But South Asia is a large market with approximately 30% of its population currently under the age of 15. And that creates a future demographic bulge that does present an opportunity to develop human capital and also nurture entrepreneurship. So, sir, having worked with majorly with enterprises in South Asia as part of ALSiSAR Impact also, what according to you are the major opportunities in terms of the sectors or instrument deployment, and what are the threats in terms of scale and geography?
So again, a good question. So if you see South Asia is like 20-25% of the global population is there in such a small area, geography, right? And we also have a very huge historical civilization history in the connotation as well, which is a great thing. That means we are kind of talking about some kind of a very unique ecosystem coming in. Whatever reason, like South Asia used to be one of the market leaders in the GDP of the globe earlier. Like if you go 200 years and back, like it was like the main fulcrum of the whole global, I will say, businesses.
Yeah.
Later on, it got diminished. And today, South Asia is one of the most laggard states, like not at all a like profitable, like I will say, promising geography. However, I see it as an opportunity because we have not just demographic dividend, but also huge amount of people are kind of enterprising in their own way. So in South Asia, you will see micro-entrepreneurship is a big phenomenon. Yes. Government doesn't have jobs. Private sector does not have jobs. Corporate does not have that much jobs as a population. We cannot serve it. So we anyways have micro-entrepreneurs. Go and look, open your window, you will see a provision store nearby. There will be a vendor, a cart vendor nearby. There will be a milk vendor nearby. There will be so many small entrepreneurs are there. However, this is all micro-entrepreneur phenomena. Now, if as a country, as a geography, we have to go to the next level, we need to find a way how these micro entrepreneurs could be supported to become small and medium enterprise. That's the key. And to furnish that, we need lots of different catalyzing things. One is mobilizing finance, which should be affordable. It has to be affordable. Then second is we need to reduce the regulatory challenges as well. The regulation should be easier. It should not be that it kills the entrepreneurs. Third is you need to have exchange of ideas and also exchange of different kind of business model people as well. That human interactions and interfaces should be more. And fourth is we also need to have some kind of a cultural sensibilities as well. And fifth is we also need to nurture the way our people who are youngsters are kind of be able to cope up with the stress. Entrepreneurship is all about like bravery in India. If you ask me on South Asia, it's not for faint-hearted. We need to have more inclusive societies coming in, where acceptability needs to be more as well. And the fifth is, while we are talking about all these aspects, we also forget that there's very less representation of women entrepreneurs in this whole South Asia, and it is not in a very healthy demographic manner supported in terms of entrepreneurship. We need to find more women-friendly entrepreneurship ecosystem as well. So if we see that demographic dividend is there, but at the same time, it is also a very big time bomb. If we don't channelize the youth energy, it could be as disruptive or distractive as it could be.
Another interesting fact is that while much of the impact investing territory still remains uncharted, the practice has matured, infrastructure has developed, best practices are emerging, and several opportunities have come up. And now every foundation, big or small, it can effectively generate and engage in impact investing, putting in new and different types of capital to work for social good. However, in the case of small staffed foundations, while they might be built with a lot of passion, they might not have that kind of experience to last in the sector. So what, according to you, would be some of the specific strategies that leaders in small staffed organizations can use to play a role in moving capital in markets, including or beyond their traditional grant making activities?
Like when we look even the large grant making institutions, if I put it like this, they still are comfortable giving larger grant to smaller, less organizations because the headache is less. So the more organization you give grants, you will have more work and you will be having lots of things to monitor and other things. So people are more comfortable giving to less organizations who have some reputation, some history and other things. They don't want to experiment with newer ones. So if you want to make a lasting impact, you need to start diversifying as well. Diversifying with respect to the number of organizations, but also with geography, but also with purpose. So all these things, it comes when you have some kind of an intent which is going above and beyond what your stated kind of objectives are, which maybe, yes, I want to support, let's say, women entrepreneurship, women entrepreneurs. And for that, if you are trying to do it, and if you're sitting just in Bombay and you're not wanting to go and travel and sit with entrepreneurs in Chhattisgarh or other places, you will just try to nurture similar kind of entrepreneurs in similar geographies and overcrowd them. So it's a very uneven market, which we say. So we need to distribute that wealth. We need to distribute the intelligence. We have to also distribute the overall resources to wider markets. If we try to do that, in that smaller organizations or the newer organizations are actually pretty good. Like you need to support. Let's say, if suppose tomorrow, if you want to start an entrepreneur related idea, you want to start your own, there should be ecosystems to support you at least for the initial 1 or 2 years. The initial 1 or 2 years are the most vulnerable ones. And that's where we need the largest amount of support for any kind of entrepreneur ideas.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for taking on the time.